Hey guys, welcome back to Ruining Shakespeare. Today, as promised, we're going to bring out a video about the English monarchy. As you may know, the English monarchy is a very, very simple system. Give the crown to the eldest son or the eldest daughter if all the sons are dead. See? Simple!
Gotta love that sarcasm.
I know.
That's pretty sexist. Like, what if the eldest son is like 2 years old, but the eldest daughter is like of age? Doesn't it make more sense to have the daughter rule instead? That's so lame.
That's why they changed the rules. Anyways, when picking the heir, you can even nominate someone who isn't a direct child of the king or queen, like the king or queen's cousin, uncle, niece, great-grandson, cousin first removed, whatever.
Are you saying that I have a chance to become the Queen of England? I'm probably somewhat related to them anyways, like a 50th cousin 13 times removed or something.
Aren't you Asian, Betty?
I can still dream.
Ha. Getting back on topic, no matter how messy it gets, as I said before, the king or queen will always be chosen in the royal family. The members of the monarchy were basically much better than the peasants, and they would marry between each other just to preserve the royal bloodline.
So, basically, incest.
Cough, cough, Cersei and Jaime Lannister.
Even the best of us, am I right?
The royal bloodline basically needs to be shielded from the dirty plebs.
In fact, the people in the royal bloodline are very special. Other than the king or queen, everyone else's job is literally to have all the power and have all the fun. It can, however, be dangerous if the king or queen doesn't like you or thinks you're going to steal their power because they have all the right to jail or behead you.
If Queen Elizabeth was on her period, everyone run!
I'll low-key probably be the first one that's beheaded.
The rulers have all the power in the world. Of course, they have restraints. The king or queen can't just say, "Let's burn everything down!" But they have a lot of power. For example, Queen Elizabeth I can decide the religion, education, and fashion of the citizens. She isn't above the law, but no law can pass without her approval. Basically, if she likes ya, you get all the power in the world, but if she doesn't like ya, you're screwed. So a little bit of history. For our video, we're mainly going to talk about the Tudor monarch.
Let's get this bread!
The Tudor period was in the years 1485 to 1603, and it had a total of 5 rulers. Although 2 of them didn't really do anything, and one of them was severely cracked in the head.
So, are you trying to say that he had a crack on the side of his head, or what?
He was basically crazy.
Oh, love that.
The first one, King Henry VII, did a pretty good job as a king and died in 1509.
Why does King Henry VII only get one sentence?
Because he didn't really do much. He wasn't that famous compared to his son. His son, the next ruler, King Henry VIII, was a very infamous dude since he desperately wanted a son and has 6 wives.
Bruh, 6 wives? The heck? Rip divorces. Feels bad, man.
Most of his marriages were fine, but he did, however, behead just 2 of his wives, both for not being able to give him a son. By the way, those 2 beheaded wives were cousins.
I guess it runs in the family.
That's not a good thing. After all his marriages, King Henry VIII died and his only son, Edward, became king. Edward, however, did a pretty bad job as a king and died of a disease after 6 years of ruling. Afterwards, Mary became the queen. There was someone else before her called Jane,
but we cut her out because she's not that important.
Time is of the essence.
Mary was called Bloody Mary, and no, not that Bloody Mary who liked to bathe in young girls' blood for youth. This was a Bloody Mary that killed hundreds of Protestants. She died after only 5 years, and in came her sister, Elizabeth.
Karma.
I bet she was like the other Bloody Mary, the one that's still alive, according to the elementary school students.
Now Elizabeth was a true fresh breath of air since she ruled for 44 years, 4 times the amount than both of her 2 predecessors combined.
44 years? The heck? I thought she'd be murdered or something early on.
Maybe it's because most of her siblings are dead, and there's no one left to try and backstab her.
Now we're actually going to let Betty start talking. Betty, tell us what you're going to talk about.
So we know a bunch about the monarchy in general. Let's talk about who really mattered. Queen Elizabeth. Queen Elizabeth was born to King Henry and Anne Boleyn in the Greenwich Palace on Sunday, September 7th, 1533. But before we get more into about Elizabeth, let's rewind back a bit to when King Henry was still married to Catherine of Aragon.
Wasn't Catherine his brother's wife?
Yup.
First incest, now it's this? Anyways, the king really wanted a male heir and was also falling in love with the young Anne Boleyn. So the king went through hell to break up with Catherine so that he can marry Anne. But Catherine was too OP because she had them connections and she was also the aunt of great Emperor Charles V.
Compared to her, I guess Anne is just a weak pleb.
No skill.
The Pope was too scared to let the king annul the marriage because he didn't want to offend Charles. This is why the king then broke ties with the Catholic Church like a boss. And boom, England is now a Protestant country.
This dude put so much effort to marry Anne, but he beheaded her after only 3 years.
Tough love?
Shh, spoilers! During the whole wedding fiasco, Anne was pregnant and everyone believed that Anne was pregnant with a boy. But ha! Elizabeth was born a girl and this disappointed everyone.
Expectations versus reality.
Feels bad for Elizabeth, born into a world as a disappointment.
The people were pissed, and the king started to love Anne less and less, like the fake he is, growing more interested in the other girls around him. I mean, would you be surprised? He had 6 wives.
Oh, well, that's a thesis.
I mean, they're all British. Why do you think there wouldn't be tea involved?
Anyways, Elizabeth lived well when her mother was still the Queen of England. She was dressed well and had many people attend to her. However, as time passed, Anne was still unable to produce a male heir and had her fate sealed.
Foreshadowing.
You got it! Anne was accused of witchcraft, adultery, and incest, likely on purpose, as the king wanted to get rid of her, just like how he got rid of her cousin Catherine. Anne was beheaded for treason. On Tower Green, May 1956, when Elizabeth was only 2.5 years old.
That's a yikes from me.
That's so rough.
After the death of her mother, Elizabeth lived a very difficult childhood. She was stripped of her title as a princess and was to be just called Lady Elizabeth.
Dude, how did Elizabeth feel about that?
It was recorded that she said, "How haps it, Governor? Yesterday my Lady Princess, today but my Lady Elizabeth."
That's really rough.
Henry's 5th wife, Catherine Howard, was Elizabeth's maternal relative, and she was super nice to her. But Catherine afterwards was beheaded for adultery, and this scarred Elizabeth. From a young age, she has seen the many horrors that marriage can bring, and the many failed attempts her father had.
Elizabeth has a pretty bad life. Imagine introducing your parents to your friends. For her, it'll just be, yeah, my mom's dead, but my dad already found me a 3rd stepmom.
The more the merrier.
Later on, she was dubbed the Virgin Queen, as she remained a bachelor till death. Her father's failed marriages may have been a factor along with many political issues, and also not being able to find a suitable man for herself and her people.
Yeah, she's be amazed. Level 100 boss.
Nah, she like a level 5 crook.
You're a level 5 crook.
Oh my god, don't at me, sis! King Henry, her father, died the 28th of January, 1547. Following the king's death, Elizabeth went to live with the Queen Dowager, who was remarried to Edward Seymour. But who knew Edward Seymour would become unhealthily interested in Elizabeth, who was but a teenager at the time? He had a plot to usurp his brother and marry Elizabeth, but he failed and Elizabeth was suspected of being an accomplice, and so she was put in the Tower of London as punishment, even though she didn't even do anything.
Jeez, life isn't getting any better for her. Dead mom and then locked in a tower? She's like Rapunzel, but even worse.
At least Edward ain't her Prince Charming, because girl, you can do better than that.
I'd say he's more like the evil witch that put her up there. Continuing, to keep her reputation, Elizabeth dressed like a good Protestant woman, wearing plain black and white gowns, refused to decorate herself with jewelry and other finery, and also refused to wear makeup.
She's basically not allowed to wear the Gucci and the Prada.
Yeah, if she did, people would have got them tomatoes ready. After King Edward, her brother, died, Elizabeth's half-sister, Mary, took the throne. After Mary died, Elizabeth ascended to the throne and became the Queen of England. Elizabeth's reign was during a time that people would describe as the most glorious in English history. She had made a compromise between Roman Catholicism and Protestantism, which before was a huge political issue. She created policies that cleared the debt and economically enhanced the country. Her reign provided stability and peace to England.
Damn, we stan a queen.
Okay, I'm done talking about Queen Elizabeth, so...
Well, both Betty and I have gone, so Jenny?
Ew, is it my turn now?
Yup, court life.
Nards. Okay, I got this. The Elizabethan era was referred to as a golden age as they lived hella lavishly, especially for the people in court. The court was wherever the queen was, and they moved every few weeks as the palace needed to be aired because the building would be too dirty for Queen Elizabeth to be in, since she was a queen bee. Since usually around 1,000 to 2,000 people had to be accommodated for, the queen had to reside in larger palaces.
Isn't that super counterproductive? Making a whole palace dirty and then move to another one? Eventually, they'll just move back to the cleaned palace. So isn't it better to just keep the original palace clean?
Dust versus Queen Elizabeth. Who will win?
I wonder. Servants began their day super duper early in the morning, quietly doing chores around the palace. Once Queen Elizabeth wakes, her servants tend to her. As she was religious, she always went to the chapel to pray while her household awaits for her return.
Imagine if we had to tend to someone. I can't even tend to myself in the morning.
No, oh my god, I need my sleep. I literally don't even want to do any chores at all.
Dude, same. Coming back, she would have breakfast between 6 to 7 a.m. After, she would have to be dressed. If she were to meet with the public, she dressed to impress in her high-class Gucci outfit. In this era, all must dress in accordance with their social status, and no one was allowed to try to 1v1 the queen, and the servants wore simple uniforms to complement her appearance.
The queen is showing off on us.
She's flexing on us with the Gucci.
The queen was a fashionista and had dresses of all colors, but wore mostly black and white as they symbolized virginity. The gowns were hand-embroidered with all sorts of colored thread with jewels. She wore tons of clothing, and when I say a ton, I mean like she's stacked with different layers. She also wore a bunch of jewelry that weighed a lot.
How does her neck not break?
Right? What's more is that the queen always wore makeup. When she was young, she only wore a little bit, but after the smallpox epidemic, she would have to wear a lot to cover up her scars that remained. Dressing the queen took a lot of the day, and she would dine for lunch at around noon.
I thought people who took 2 hours were extra. She's next level.
I mean, she wanted to look good and she had a lot of jewelry and clothes, right?
Yeah, true, I guess.
After, she would immerse herself with politics and all the boring, ruling the country stuff, often meeting with officials and ambassadors. When she has done her work, she is allowed to relax for the rest of her day. Supper is usually served between 5 to 8 p.m.
So does this just mean that she eats super slow, or does her day just vary so much?
Probably both.
The queen spent a lot of her time in the privy chamber with her household. They amused themselves with games such as cards and dice. They almost always gambled when they indulged in such games. The ladies loved dancing and playing musical instruments.
How do they have that much money to gamble all the time? I literally can't even afford chicken nuggets.
Relate. I'm broke 24/7.
And we're also going to have to deal with student loans without OSAP. Doug Ford.
Okay, but they literally live in a palace. They're rich as... The Queen Elizabeth's maids of honor and ladies-in-waiting spent a lot of time embroidering, reading, and learning new dances. Often, many wealthy individuals hosted great banquets that the Queen would attend to. When she was alone, she played sports such as tennis. The Queen loved horse riding through the palace grounds. The people had no sense of animal cruelty and therefore enjoyed a lot of violent animal sports, especially bear baiting.
You can see why people are so mean and cruel nowadays, when even back then they couldn't even be nice to animals. But honestly, I would want her life. Have everyone attend to you and do whatever you want them to do.
Do whatever you want them to do? Jeez, Betty, are you pro-slave or something?
Don't twist my words, that's not what I meant.
The Elizabethan era was famous for its literary and dramatic culture, its music, and chivalry. The Queen was an influence on Shakespeare, and in fact, the Queen attended a few of Shakespeare's plays. Composers worked in Elizabeth's court and the Chapel Royal, and theaters thrived at this time. Many artists and playwrights were influenced by her and used her as a muse. As well, Elizabeth herself wrote a few poems and created some translations.
Ooh, what a scholar.
Yeah, she was pretty smart and creative.
That's it for court life, right?
Yep.
Well, basically, that's it for this segment on monarchy.
The monarchy itself has a lot more details that we, obviously, couldn't contain in this short video, but feel free to check out our other videos to learn more.
Thanks for watching!
Smash that like button. Don't forget to press that subscribe button. Click the notification bell for more videos like this. Bye, guys!